Jolly, jolly. A Merry Christmas, everyone. Welcome to the El Toro La Liga show. Yeah, a little bit later than usual, but of course, as you can see, we're getting up to Christmas now. Obviously, you can see on the ticker down below as well. I will be doing live watch alongs for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. Now, obviously, lots to get into in this episode. Obviously, this is the final episode of the year 2025, which means that the next show will be in 2026. So, obviously, please do hit the like button on the video on the live stream and subscribe to the channel, and obviously let me know your thoughts in the live chat as well, as we will get started with the final game for Spanish teams in La Liga. Starting off with the game that is going to happen in about 15 minutes. So it's a little preview of it. So we have Valencia against Mallorca. Now, obviously, both of these sides playing right now. Both of them and indifferent 2025, I would say. Valencia 46% to win, 30% for a draw, and only 24% Mallorca win. And you can see, you have to scroll a little bit down. Both sides not doing the best right now in La Liga. And you probably are expecting both of them to hopefully survive by the end of the season. I know that it's just not been a good season from either team. I mean, between them, it's only been 7 wins. 4 for Mallorca, which they got the previous weekend, which I did call. I think I said they beat Elche, and Valencia losing the previous game. So yeah, it's not looking rosy for any side. But obviously, 2026 could change that. Now, in terms of a prediction for this game, obviously, you can look at the lineups. For Valencia, obviously, Hugo Toro is finally getting a lot more game time, which is pretty good. I would say I think he's their best player. Meanwhile, Mallorca, obviously, they played Deportivo La Coruña in the Copa del Rey on Tuesday evening, which we did beat them 1-0 at our stadium. And obviously, Moriki up front with Joseph as well for Mallorca. So I'll be honest, I feel like this game might favor Valencia maybe a bit more. So I'm actually going with Valencia win. I'm actually going with a 1-0, just a 1-0 game for the final Friday game of La Liga. And then next up tomorrow afternoon we have is Oviedo against Celta Vigo. Now, as I said, both sides kind of been on and off Celta Vigo on and off. Oviedo just been terrible. They lost the previous game 4-0 to Sevilla. Celta Vigo did lose, I believe, but 27% Oviedo win, 29% for a draw, and 44% Celta Vigo win. Celta Vigo somehow are climbing up the table, which I'm not very fond of, despite only having 5 wins all season after 16 games. But they are in 8th place, and they haven't actually drawn a game in a long time, and they did win their previous game. It was proven incorrect. Meanwhile, Oviedo, it's just not been a good season from them. I think the only best possible option they hope for is hopefully that they can get a win to close off 2025, which has, to be honest, been a really good year for them. Obviously, they got promoted back to La Liga back in June. So it's been an overall good half of the year. Obviously, it's not been that good in La Liga since their return, which, it's not that surprising, I would say. But, yeah, not good. Meanwhile, Celta Vigo, obviously, are in the Europa League, probably going to make it to the next round. But they did lose back-to-back Europa League games. So, don't get too cocky. But I would say I do see Celta Vigo winning this game, unfortunately. I'll give Oviedo a go just to close out the year. So I'm going 2-1 Celta Vigo tomorrow afternoon. Next up we have is Levante against Real Sociedad. Now, obviously, of Levante, Real Sociedad, both of these sides um, just not been a good year overall. Obviously, if you look at the table, 28% Levante win, 28% for a draw, and 44% Sociedad win. Now, if you scroll all the way down, once again, we start the weekend off with teams down at the bottom of the league and all. The home side Levante all bottom of La Liga, but they did not play last weekend actually because of bad weather. So they're technically still on their losing streak. But against a Real Sociedad team that have now lost 3 games in a row, they lost the previous game last Friday against Girona, so not a good result for them. And it's just not been a good season from Sociedad at all, even though I predicted them to finish in the top 4, which is almost certainly not going to happen. In terms of a prediction, obviously, I think Levante having that little extra rest, you can say, might suit them. But I'll be honest, I do see it probably just being a draw in the end between these two sides. I'm actually going with a 1-1 draw between Levante and Real Sociedad to round up the year for both. Next up, I wouldn't say this is a bit of a derby. It's not really, but it is Osasuna against Alavés. Now, obviously, Osasuna lost. Actually, both of these teams played Barcelona, Real Madrid. Osasuna did lose 2-0 to Barcelona, and Alavés lost 2-1 to Real Madrid this past weekend. So not a good result for either team, obviously, but it was kind of expected. Osasuna 43% win, 31% for a draw, and only 26% Alavés win. Obviously, both of these sides actually progressed in the cup in midweek, so they at least had something to bounce back on. Alavés been losing a lot more lately, even though they progressed in the cup. Osasuna, as I said, just been a little bit down in the relegation scrap for most of this first half of the season. And I don't really see much from them. I'll be honest. But in terms of a prediction, I'm actually going with for this game. I'm actually going with another draw. I just don't really see much in it. I'll go 1-1. I think that will probably be a fair result as well. 1-1 between the two sides. And then tomorrow night, it's Real Madrid's final game of the year, I believe. And that is against Sevilla, who they have a pretty okay-ish record against. Obviously, Sevilla did win. Actually, both of them won. But Sevilla did get knocked out by Alavés, who we just talked about in the Copa del Rey. Meanwhile, Real Madrid almost bottled it against, I think it was a third tier. I'm pretty sure third tier. Talavera in the cup, but they managed it in the end. Win probability 80% for Real Madrid, 13% for a draw, and only 7% for a Sevilla win. Now, if you look, Real Madrid just not been in the best form to round up the year, and even though they are 4 points clear of Villarreal do have 2 games in hand, and they are also 4 points behind Barcelona, who will be at the top of La Liga at Christmas, no matter what happens. So for Real Madrid, it's all about just making sure you keep that gap to at least 4 points, or maybe under, who knows, just to put a little bit of pressure on Barcelona, I would say. But it's just not been a good end of the year since the start of November. But if you can get a win against Sevilla, that'll be pretty good, obviously. Meanwhile, for Sevilla, it's been an alright season. Obviously, they've not many people expected them to be good, but also some people expected them to be a bit shit, which they could drop off in form by the end of the season. But so far, from the expectations people had, I think they are doing all right for themselves, Sevilla. on 20 points, about 5 points, three actually, yeah, 5 points clear of the relegation zone, but in ninth, so it is pretty tight down there. Pause. Eh, But yeah, Sevilla, look, they've done all right for themselves, even though they haven't had the best run of form. But they did pick up a win against Oviedo, but everyone beats Oviedo, unfortunately. But for this game against Real Madrid, I just think that Real Madrid, once again, just the quality Real Madrid have. And there is a lot of pressure on Real Madrid to get the result. I'm going with just a narrow 2-0 win, 2-0 for Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, the final game there of the year. And then Sunday afternoon, we have Girona against Atletico Madrid. Now, obviously, um, Girona has not been a good season, even though they did win the previous game. Atleti, I think they did win against Valencia. I think it was 2-1 in the end. So a good result for Atleti at the end of the day. Win probability 20% Girona, 23% draw, and 57% Atletico Madrid win. Now, obviously, Atleti are in fourth place in La Liga, but with a game in hand with the team below them, Espanyol could actually catch up to them by even by 1 point if Atleti were to slip up here. Away at Girona, who have been picking up scalps, they did get that draw against Real Madrid, so and obviously just beat Sociedad away at San Sebastian. So Girona kind of improving somewhat after the shit start they had to the season. Atleti, you know, just before what, like they had a 13 game unbeaten run in La Liga and now back to back losses. Even though they did pick up the win against Valencia last weekend, not been that all good for Atleti overall, and I think they are probably going to be the team that's going to be in that battle for top four if Espanyol and maybe Real Betis catch up to them. It seems like more likely it will be Espanyol that will be catching up to them. But I think this game for Atleti, it's going to be tough. It will be tough, even though, as I said, Girona, look, last 5, 6 games, only one loss, and that was the previous game. But Girona have kept themselves competitive in La Liga this season now after having a really bad start. However, I do think that Atletico will be a little bit strong for Girona this time around compared to the previous game against Real Sociedad. So, in terms of a prediction, I'm going 3-2. Maybe this will be a fun game to watch. I'm going 3-2 for Atletico Madrid against Girona. That'll be my prediction. Next up, it's the game that should have been in Miami. Should have been in Miami. Thankfully, it is not, but we do have Villarreal against Barcelona. Now, obviously, lots of news came out about this when it first got announced back in like August, I believe it was, or September, about this fixture being played in Miami. It is not. It will be played, just so you guys know, in Villarreal, in the Estadio de la Ceramica. I was about to say Salamanca. Oh, God, that would have been terrible. But yeah, look, both sides at that time agreed to this Miami game, this being the Miami game, but it didn't happen, which is good for La Liga, which means that, it's a bit of a clean slate for every single team, I hope. But obviously, we'll have to find out how La Liga and Iva Tebas will try to make the league somehow profitable. But yeah, despite that, win probability 27% Villarreal win, 21% for a draw, and only 52% Barcelona win. And obviously, by the end of this show, I will check up on the Valencia Mallorca game. But yeah, both teams in the top three. Obviously, Barcelona will be top of La Liga for Christmas and New Year. And this is the game before the derby against Espanyol, who are, we'll talk about them very soon. It seems like Catalonia, apart from Girona probably, is doing quite well this season. Villarreal, look, they got knocked out by Racing Santander in the Copa del Rey, so that's another they've already thrown away Champions League, they've thrown away the Copa. Villarreal are just going to prioritize La Liga now, which is nothing wrong with that, but I'm not a big fan of Villarreal overall this season. Even though they've done all right for themselves. I mean, they have, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they do have the best defensive record. Only 13 goals conceded in La Liga, so they do have a good defensive record. But ask them that in the Champions League, and they're shit, and they're out of the cup as well. So they have one competition for the remainder of the year. So like you probably are going to back Villarreal to finish in the top four. I mean, if they were to win the two games in hand, 38, 41, they would only be 2 points behind Barcelona. And if they beat Barcelona, they would by technicality be above Barcelona if they were had they played their games in hand already and won those as well. So yeah, it is going to be a tough game. I think obviously both sides have done very well in La Liga, and I don't know what's to separate them. I'll go with I'll go 2-2 in this game. I think Villarreal and Barcelona have done very well in La Liga. Just La Liga. I'm not talking about Champions League and all that. 2-2 is my prediction between those two teams. Next up, we do have here is Elche against Rayo Vallecano. Let me just update the timing. All right, there we go. Yeah, Sunday evening, we have Elche against Rayo Vallecano in La Liga, the final game. And obviously, Rayo Vallecano, just to mention, have made it into the top 8 of the Conference League. So that means they don't have to go through the playoff of the Conference League. So the next European game isn't until March, which is pretty good for Rayo Vallecano to not have to deal with the extra 2 games for them. So they've done all right for themselves in Europe this season. But in terms of this game against Elche, win probability 39% Elche win, 31% for draw, and 30% for Rayo Vallecano win. Now, obviously, you probably think that the European exports might affect Rayo Vallecano, who, I'll be honest, not done well in La Liga in terms of like getting up more points. And Elche, yeah, they started the season very well, but it's been petering off. Only 1 win in the last like 7 games, so not good. But same thing with Rayo. I do think there will be a winner in this game, but I am going with Elche to win this one. I just think that the extra day's rest, and also I think they also progress in the cup on Thursday, so no team has rest. I just think the home side will benefit more in this game. I'm going with a 2-1 win for Elche to round up a very decent year for them as well. Got promoted. Actually, both teams have done really well for 2025. So yeah, 2-1 for Elche is my prediction. And then next up, we do have here is Real Betis against Getafe. Now, Getafe got knocked out of the Copa del Rey. Real Betis are in the round of 16 with Deportivo in the Copa del Rey, so still have a chance to do a potential treble if they were to win La Liga. Probably not. 56% win probability for Real Betis, 26% for draw, and only 18% for a Getafe win. Now, let me start off with Real Betis. Now, if you look, the top 4 ambitions look to be kind of slipping away. Right now, even with the game in hand, 9 points behind Atleti. Win that game in hand, still 6 points behind. They've not been picking up a lot of wins. Actually, the last win in the last 5 games was against Sevilla, the rivals. But yeah, it's just not been a good bit of the season. In terms of the expectation you might have on Real Betis, I do think by the end of it, they will be up there competing for it, but we have to see how well they do in not in La, well in La Liga as well, but in the Europa League. Meanwhile, for Getafe, it's just been a little bit of a losing streak, apart from one win in there, which if I'm not mistaken, was against Oviedo. I mean, everyone does that. But yeah, Getafe just not been overall the most impressive side in La Liga, on 20 points and in 10th place. So yeah, in terms of prediction, I do think Real Betis will get back to winning ways in La Liga. I'm going for I'll go 2-0 for Real Betis to get the result to help them at least keep their ambitions for top four, and making the Champions League on Sunday night. So 2-0 for Betis is my prediction. And the final game of the year. Here we go, people. It's Athletic Club against Espanyol. One being a surprise package in La Liga, the other one being a bit of a disappointment, I would say. Win probability 54% Athletic Club win, 27% for a draw, and only 19% for Espanyol win. And speaking of Espanyol, actually both of them 5th and 7th in the table, but Espanyol on 5th, 4 straight wins in La Liga, very good. I did not expect them to be this good. I thought I would see them getting relegated. That's how bad my prediction was on them. Now, do I think they get Europe? I mean, they could technically. I mean, they're on a very good run of form, and I've been really impressed with them. Like really impressed. As for Athletic Club, not been the best for them in terms of this season. Yeah, they've kind of picked up results here and there, but probably going to get eliminated from the Champions League, which is obviously not good for them. But also in La Liga, just not been the most entertaining side, I would say. They only scored 15 goals in La Liga, which is one of the they've scored fewer goals than even Elche and Mallorca, which currently is 0-0 against Valencia. But yeah, I do think in the end, despite the good form Espanyol are in, I would be really shocked if they were to win here against Athletic Club. I do think Athletic Club will get the win to end off the year, but I will think it will be a solitary 1-0 scoreline. So I'm going 1-0 for Athletic Club in the end. So obviously, it is now time for the El Toro de la Semana, the best player of the week. Let me just switch there. Which is obviously the best player of the week, El Toro de la Semana. And the player for that is Victor Tzankov of Girona. Obviously, scored 2 goals against Real Sociedad. But in last Friday, actually, which actually meant that he got the, what do you call this? The man of the match, and also helped them claim victory in, what do you call this, in the match against Real Sociedad, scoring both goals. That's what I was meant to say. But yeah, really good from him, becoming the final player of 2025 to win the El Toro de la Semana. So in my case, congrats to him, you know. But now it's time for the Segunda, and then we'll also talk about the Cup, the Copa del Rey, and who progressed and all that. So let me sort this out. So obviously, last weekend was game week 18, and obviously there has been a goal in the Segunda game already, against for Eibar. Which I'll show you guys in a bit. But the games this past weekend, yeah, Huesca beating Leonesa 2-0 away, a big away result for them. Cordoba and Eibar ended 0-0. Sporting Gijon 1, Granada 0. Jeez, I need to get a drink. Valladolid lost surprisingly against Andorra. You also have Racing Santander won, Leganes won. And this, oh god, we only won the Real Sociedad B team have not picked up a single away point until they played that ball. What absolute shambles! Absolute shambles. That game was. You got Cadiz beating Zaragoza, so kind of bring back down to earth for Zaragoza. Malaga got a big win against Albacete, and we'll talk about Albacete and Celta Vigo. You had Burgos beating Almeria, a surprise result, you could say. Ceuta won, Las Palmas won, and then huge win, Castellon 3-1 against Miranda, just like they did, unfortunately, against Depor. Castellon, or along with Burgos, the surprise packages of the Segunda this season. Like, if either Burgos or Castellon get promoted, that I would say is like a fairy tale. I'll be honest. And obviously the game week 19, and obviously same thing. This is the final games of the Segunda teams, and same thing for actually all of Spanish football. A 2-week break ahead for Christmas and New Year. Eibar are currently winning 1-0 against Valladolid as it is almost halftime in that game. Obviously, tomorrow you have Andorra against Deportivo. My show with Charlie, I did say we get a win here. And we did beat Mallorca in the Cup, which I did mention earlier. So hopefully that builds a bit of confidence. Just try to end the year in the top 2 in the automatic promotion spots. You have Huesca against Santander. Leganes against Gijón. Las Palmas against Leonesa. And then you also have Andalusian derby, you can say. Malaga against Almeria. Miranda is taking on Cordoba, and you have the Sociedad B team against Ceuta, Granada against Albacete, Burgos against Zaragoza, and to round up the year, can Castellon continue their very good run of form and be even a better surprise package than what many think, with a tough away game against Cadiz, which is going to be tough. And obviously, the game week 20 and all that isn't until New Year on the 2nd of January, so the day after New Year. So let me show you guys the league table, and then I'll show you guys the results from the Copa del Rey, because I think it's a lot more significant this time around, especially with every single team now being in it. So at the moment, the top 6 as it stands is Santander will be, no matter what and any other team do, Racing Santander are going to be top of the Segunda for Christmas and New Year. So congrats to them. For Deportivo, obviously back-to-back losses, not great, but I hope we can end the year off with a win. And if we do, it might likely be that we are going to finish the year in 2nd place, which is pretty good. You have Almeria, Castellon, and Las Palmas all within a point with us as well. Castellon, as I said, the surprise package, I think it's now 7 games win streak for them, so pretty good for them. And then Burgos are the team in the final playoff spot, just 3 points behind Las Palmas and Castellon. Now, you scroll down the bottom half of the top half. You have Sporting Gijón and Cadiz just a point away from the playoff. You have Ceuta on 26 points. You have Valladolid, who are currently losing, on 24 points, and Malaga in 11th, 23. And just above the relegation zone, you have obviously Cordoba and Leonesa, both on 23 points. Leonesa being a bit of a surprise as well. They just got promoted from Primera Ref, or the 3rd tier of Spanish football, and they've done well for themselves. And we'll also talk about them in the Copa del Rey as well, just after this segment. Albacete on 22 points with Huesca as well. Real Sociedad B, Eibar, who are currently winning, so they are on 21 points as it stands, and Andorra on 21 points. And the bottom 4 for now, You have Leganes, who were just relegated from La Liga. Leganes, at the moment, are in the relegation zone. Same thing with Granada. Were just in La Liga. What, 2 years ago? So they've been a bit shit as well. Miranda's, a team that nearly got into La Liga last season, are down there, and a club of the size of Zaragoza are down there as well. So very surprise. You could say more or less a surprise bunch of teams. The bottom four do get relegated by the end of the season. I do think at least one of them gets relegated by the end of the year, maybe even two, which is not good for either team. So now it is time to talk about the Copa del Rey. So I need to look it up. Right there. Let me just search it. All right. So the matches that have just been completed and the draw for the Copa del Rey round of 16 will be on the 7th or 8th of January. So we won't know the opponents until then. But some of the results. Obviously, the first game was us, Deportivo. We got that win over Mallorca, which I did predict in my show with Charlie La Pina Rosa, which I will do with him as a special show on Sunday. And that will be the final show, La Pina Rosa, of 2025 until we get back to it in 2026. So, yeah, obviously, a good result for us. Very good result to get that win over Mallorca. And, it's a win against a La Liga side, so pretty good as well. Yeah, the Elche beating Eibar. So a La Liga team knocking out Segunda. Same thing with Real Sociedad beating Eldense 2-1, a team in the third tier. Valencia did beat Sporting Gijón on Tuesday, and Barcelona eventually, by the end of it, did beat Guadalajara 2-0 on Tuesday night. So those were the Tuesday games in the Copa. And then you had a big result, obviously, Leonesa 1-0. So Leonesa, so that's the second, I believe, second Segunda team along with Deportivo in the next round. Atletico Madrid had to make hard work. They beat Atletico Baleares 3-2 in the islands of the Balearic Islands, Islas Baleares, which is, well, they're technically rivals with Mallorca. You have Albacete beating Celta Vigo 2-2. Well, actually on penalties. 3-0 on penalties. So that's the third Segunda team. And it also means that Deportivo are the last remaining team from Galicia in the Copa del Rey. Things you love to see. I wish Lugo was the other one, but oh well. You have Osasuna beating Huesca. A huge result for them. And then another Segunda team knocking out, oh, what a surprise, Villarreal. Villarreal are just like, fuck these extra competitions. They only care about the league. So Santander, or the fourth team not from La Liga, or the fourth team in the Segunda that are in the round of 16. We also do have one more as well, which I'll talk, maybe six. You have the only La Liga. Alavés did beat Sevilla, so Sevilla are out. Obviously, as I said, Real Madrid had to make hard work against Talavera. Lunin with a very good save to deny a third goal for Talavera. But Real Madrid did progress in the end. And then, obviously, a Galician club, Orense, lost to Athletic Club 1-0, which was yesterday on Thursday. And then the other game on Thursday as well was Burgos defeating Getafe. So that's the fifth Segunda team. Meanwhile, the other games so far have been La Liga sides. And then Real Betis gets a 2-0 win against Murcia in that one. And there is one more match to go, and that is Rayo Vallecano will be away at Granada, which will be just after the return of La Liga and the Segunda after New Year. So this will be played in midweek, I believe, on a Tuesday, the first Tuesday of 2026. And then obviously, I believe either Wednesday or Thursday, the 7th or 8th of January, they will do the sorteo, the draw for the round of 16. So Granada could be the 6th team from the Segunda that could be in the next round. Otherwise, we will have 11 sides from La Liga. So the lowest ranked team are the 5 teams from the Segunda. But when you think about Burgos are in the top 6 of the Segunda, Santander are in the top 6 of the Segunda, and Deportivo, we are in the top 6 as well in the Segunda. The other two, Leonesa and Albacete, more or less in the same position of like 11th, 12th, 13th, more or less, if I remember correctly. Doing quite well, and obviously Granada in the relegation zone. But we won't know too much of their fixture against Rayo Vallecano until New Year, after New Year. So still a long time to go. In terms of a prediction for that, I do think in the end Rayo Vallecano will get the win. I'll go 2-0. But yeah, in terms of how the Copa has been, obviously we don't have any teams from Primera Ref and down, so we only have La Liga and Segunda. That's it. The rest have been eliminated. The lowest was actually, I believe, Talavera. I believe, but I might be wrong. Or Murphy, or maybe it might have been Murphy as well. But yeah, obviously can't really make any judgments. But if there could be 1 or 2 or even more Segunda teams in potentially the quarterfinal, because obviously all the Segunda teams will host the La Liga sides, but it will be an open draw, I believe, in this round of the competition, and the games will be played, if I'm not mistaken, the weekend after the Super Copa ends, I believe. So that would be what, the 13th, 14th, and 15th of January. So we won't know until that time. So I do think that hopefully, or it might be the week after. I'm not sure, the midweek after. But yeah, look, that's how it ends up in the Copa del Rey so far. But yeah, what a great great end to the show. Obviously, as I said, I am doing live watch longs for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, which obviously I will do starting on Sunday at 8 o'clock Spain time for the opening match of Morocco against Comoros. But yeah, in terms of the El Toro La Liga show, obviously I will be back on January 2nd, as usual, previewing game week 18 and the new year of La Liga and Spanish football and all that. But it's been a good show, obviously. I will talk a lot more about other shows as well, with La Piña Rosa, that being on Sunday, 4 p.m. Spain time, 3 p.m. UK time. I will do it with Charlie, and that will be the final show of the calendar year 2025 before we do the next episode of that after the new year. Still doing Year of the Bird, a couple more episodes until New Year, but we will have the one penultimate before Christmas this coming Monday, actually, which obviously we'll be talking about more in depth and in detail. And in terms of other stuff that is happening on the channel, obviously doing live watch alongs, as I said, for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, doing at least one game per day, and when it's the final round of the group stage, I'm doing all the games. And then obviously those will be broadcasted on YouTube and X, my Twitter, which you can follow at here. So yeah, this is the end of the show of 2025 for the El Toro La Liga show. So as I said, please do hit the like button on the stream. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And with the hat over there, I would like to say Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Until then, see you guys for this show the day after.